Hello, BookTube. I thought we'd repair another book jacket, so I got everything ready here at my ancient wooden desk. I got all my supplies ready, got my scissors ready, got the book ready. I shooed away Charlotte, the rather large spider who lives in the gap between the desk and the window, and who constantly tries to build her web outward towards the desk. And every week I destroy it, and she scurries away back to her home, and then just goes right back to work. She's not as smart as the book, Charlotte. But anywho. So anyway, the book in question today is Julian by Gore Vidal. This is, and as you can see, the dust jacket is in rough shape. So the first step is to remove the dust jacket because the book is as sound as a brick. So we don't need to worry about that. And then this one has a slightly different problem than the last time because this one, on this dust jacket, the original quasi-lamination is coming undone. You can see here, you've got the dust jacket, but you've also got this. So that just has to come right off. As much of it as will come off has to come off. Because it's not doing anybody any good where it is. So we want to get rid of that. Get rid of as much of that as we can. Everywhere that it's flaking or peeling off, just give it a helping hand. And in a case like this, where you're peeling this stuff off, I have found that even when it doesn't all come off in unison, which, you know, it never does, the effect is still very pleasing. It ends up, when it's half off and half on, it ends up with a very pleasing quasi-marbled effect on the dust jacket. It's very nice, very accidental, but it works. So I do the best job that you can peeling it all off, but it doesn't matter how much of it you get. Just want to make sure. I did this once with a paperback of a movie adaptation of The Lord of the Rings, The Two Towers. And there I had to be careful because nobody wants a crease across the face of Christopher Lee. That's just undignified. But this worked out fairly well. It came off mostly in unison. So now we've done that, we can repair the book. So you flip the dust jacket over. You've got your ready stack of adhesive strips. And these are to shore up and fill in the gaps that occur along the edges of the dust jacket, wherever they occur. So you want to find and fold out all the paper. No sense tearing off anything that's actually on the cover. You want to keep as much of that as you can. And then once you've got it all filled out, you use these strips to shore it up. Just line them up with the top of the dust jacket. Anywhere that is needed. And just make as many of these things as you want. The post office gives away, here in America anyway, the post office gives away these priority mail stickers by the bushel. I got a brick of them the last time I was there. Not for this, but actually for priority mail. But still, any port in a storm. And the goal here is to make the cover basically shipshape. Almost so that if you didn't have tape, if you weren't going to laminate it or anything, you could put the repaired cover on the book and just leave it that way. I never do that. I like to go the whole distance. All right. Okay. And then we line up the book. Now that the dust jacket is reinforced, we line up the jacket on our little pad here and get ready to tape. And I can't help but notice, flipping this over, that this was $6.95 when it came out. This is probably Gore Vidal's most successful novel. He would probably have said otherwise, but in terms of sales, in terms of popularity, and especially in terms of reprints, this is probably his most popular book. It came out in 1964, after a long pause on his part away from fiction, being, for the most part, as Holden Caulfield would say, a whore out in Hollywood. In Vidal's case, that was true in the financial sense and true in the recreational sense as well. But this is a family booktube channel. So you just want to lay the tape on here and do your best. Do your best while you have a chance now to work out air bubbles, because once you've covered all the bases, you're not going to be able to work out the air bubbles. They'll be trapped in there forever. So anyway, this book came out in 1964, and it is a long historical novel about the 4th century Roman Emperor Julian the Apostate, who got that nickname because he violently rejected Christianity and did his best once he became emperor. He was only emperor for a few years, just a handful of years, and he was young. And once he became emperor, he did his best to eliminate Christianity, which had become the official religion of the empire and had gained a toehold in every town, village, and city from the Balkans to Britain. He tried to turn back the clock on that. Didn't like the Christians. They didn't particularly like him either. And died for it. He died in battle, but there were rumors from the very beginning that he was killed by his own men, many of whom were Christians. Because Christianity was very popular with the armed forces then as now. And Gore Vidal took this story, came back to fiction, came back to historical fiction, and took this story and wrote it into a novel in which two of Julian's old courtiers, two old men who were once upon a time hangers-on at his court, are appalled by the edicts forcing them to become Christians, and decide that the best way to fight against that is to publish a biography of Julian, and accompanying that biography to publish Julian's own memoir of his life, which one of them has a fragment of it. So the book is sort of framed by their peppy epistolary conversation, and then the heart and soul of the book is the memoir, is Julian telling his own story. And if that sounds familiar to you, it's for good reason. That is, well, I guess the diplomatic way to put it would be, it's a tried and true historical fiction gimmick. The thing that comes to mind, of course, is Robert Graves' novel I, Claudius, which sold like griddle cakes when it came out. It's still one of the most popular Roman historical novels of all time. Vidal very much had that in mind. And he wants to make sure, as is his way, he wants to make sure that his reader has it in mind as well. He doesn't want a chance reader out there to be ignoring the possibility that this book might belong on the same shelf as I, Claudius. So in his opening comment on the book, before we get to the fiction itself, he tells an anecdote about Robert Graves, about how when Graves came out with the sequel to I, Claudius, Claudius the God, he responded in an opening note of his own to the legion of critics of the day who said that in I, Claudius, all he had really done was take Suetonius' life of Claudius and just add quotation marks here and there, that he basically cribbed instead of created. And Graves was furious about this, and in his introductory note to Claudius the God, he does a sort of a bitter tirade about how he was true to the sources, and he notates the sources and all that. It's very tedious. Not the sort of thing that a novelist should ever feel insecure enough to do. And if Robert Graves was insecure, well, you can guess what Gore Vidal was. So in his opening comment, it's actually worth reading to you, it's so good. Graves struck back with a long bibliography listing nearly every relevant text which has survived from the ancient world. Unfortunately, I have not read as much as all that, but to anticipate those who might think that one's only source was the history of Ammianus Marcellinus or even Edward Gibbon, I have included at the end of the book a partial bibliography. that's classic Gore Vidal. The key to Gore Vidal when he was young and was in full possession of his mental faculties is that you have to read what he says very, very carefully. He had a greater respect for the precise meaning of words than I think any wordsmith of his day, and he very much used that precision to deceive. And that note is a perfect example. It is true beyond any shadow of a doubt that the only thing Gore Vidal did for this book was Ammianus Marcellinus and Edward Gibbon. And the reason why he says one would not want you to think that he only did that is because he knows that he only did that. That he's giving away the game when he does that. You can also tell because he shifts into the subjunctive and the impersonal, one would rather than I would, when he's not willing to admit, but the guilt is foremost on his mind. And the other thing you have to note from that note is that he doesn't say that he used those sources, the sources that he lists in his bibliography. He just says they're there. He's just leaving them there. And if you consult those sources or know them back and forward like I do, you'll see no trace of them in the book. The book is Edward Gibbon, basically. But in one sense, regardless of that, Vidal was right. He knew that his book was good enough to stand comparison with I, Claudius, and he was right about that. It also is a great Roman historical novel. And I remember liking this original hardcover, the stately black of the original hardcover, when it first came out, even though Gore Vidal did a signing event at a bookstore in New York City when the book first came out, and the manager of the bookstore, this is a time when managers of bookstores didn't cringe and fawn over authors. They were sort of powers in their own right. And the thing was stacked everywhere at the table and on all the shelves. So you had these towering stacks of pure black. And Vidal was sitting there, and he was still at Campos Mentis in 1964. He hadn't gone quite round the bend, but it was starting. And the manager of the bookstore looked at the stacks of books and said, "What is this, a funeral?" And Vidal said, "Yes, for America." But we're still here. But anyway, that's a tedious anecdote notwithstanding. There is the new book. You see that? Clean as a whistle. And good for standing another 10, 20 years. So, so thank you for the patience for the repair, BookTube. And I'll be back to normal videos soon. Thank you.